Hi, I'm back. I took a week off, but you probably didn't even notice because, well, the way things work in syndication here on DJ and TV. I'm wearing my DJ and TV hat again. Welcome to the Tuesday Night Music Show. I am your host. And we've got, of course, as always, Mr. Howie Darkstar is here with us.
Hello.
Swinging Pastor Jay Brennan is here with us.
And sadly, I'm taking next week off. I mean,
but they won't even. Well, yeah, they'll know.
Well, you think you are. You think you are.
They'll think I'm not in Detroit, but I'm in Detroit.
Right. So it's been a crazy week. It's been a lot of things have been going on, and I've been thinking a lot about mentors, musical mentors, and this is stuff that we've talked about. Jay's talked about it, and Howie's talked about it. People who have influenced us and taught us things about music. Now, I understand there's a certain musicianship that, Jay knows and Howie knows, and I know, but I'm just talking about music knowledge as far as songs and artists and genres and people who turn you on to things and introduce you to things. I wanted to dedicate a show to those people. Awesome. I unfortunately we had to lay to rest one of my great musical mentors this week. Very dear, close family friend. In fact, I call him Pop, and he taught me so much about music. And one of many people, but he did. He taught me a lot about a lot of things pre-1980. He was like a musical encyclopedia because there was a time when we didn't have Google and we didn't have Shazam. And if you heard a song on the radio, you had to call Pop and hum it to him, and he knew what it was. He was just that guy. And I know that I had many. He was one of many. My brother, my sister, my mother, friends I had. Howie, did you have someone in your life? It could be somebody close to you or just the guy at the record store that you feel like really mentored you on songs and artists and just general music knowledge.
Yes, that would be my Uncle Tom. And we moved from Scranton when the coal mines were shutting down and so forth and so on. It's just a big,
Billy Joel song, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And everybody was moving from Scranton. We were already here because Jersey was where the jobs were. Well, he stayed with us. And so what it was is my little sister, who was still, a baby, stayed in my mom and dad's room. And then my brothers, we had the other bedroom, and he took my sister's room and stayed with us for about 3 months to get a job in Jersey because there was nothing, back in Scranton. And he played guitar and he did bars at night. And I was maybe 5 years old. And I was that kid, like the Karens that we know that, can you play that song again kind of thing? That was me. I was like, oh man, can you play that song again? And he'd play guitar and sing, and he'd do these bar gigs and stuff. And it'd be like, I gotta go. And, I was so small. It was like, oh, it's bedtime. And for him, it was time to go to the bar and play.
Sure.
And I was just enthralled with live music. It was just, it hit me and I was hooked.
Well, he did a lot of covers then, right? For the bar gigs?
Yes, he did.
So it was a lot of this, who's that? Who does that originally? And then you have to go back and you have to take a look at that and give it a listen and see what the original sounds like. Because maybe you're hearing the song for the first time being performed live.
I didn't know that until I was in my teens. I thought that he wrote everything. I thought he was like this wizard,
It's like Beatles songs, and you're like, oh my God, he's so prolific. And
no, but it's kind of like being front row at a concert. I was sitting right across from him. He was on the bed and I was, sitting on the floor like, oh my gosh. Oh, I think I want to do that,
Sure. Now, Jay, we're going to do one at a time because if I'm not careful, you're going to give us a list of 30 consecutively with no pause or break. So if you could give us one of your musical mentors and influencers, I'd love to hear it.
I've got to. Yeah, you're right. I could. I'm going to go to the one that's probably that I remember the most vividly, outside of my parents and what they were playing at
Sure.
home, and Herb Albert and Tijuana Brass Whipped Cream album that we had.
It's all about the album cover.
All about the album cover. You kids in the internet, trust me, you missed out.
You missed it.
I was in Harvard Square freshman year in high school, went to a store called Beggar's Banquet, which sold used records. And I came up to the counter.
God, what a title for a store.
Beggar's Banquet. By the way, when you said Uncle Tom, my brain went to Uncle Tom's Cabin. I started to hear that intro, so I'm just going to throw that out there.
Me too.
John Colley did the same thing. Yeah. I guarantee it. And I went up to the counter and I had Kiss, Love Gun, and I think like Ted Nugent, Cat Scratch Fever or something. And I went up and the guy looks at me, short black hair. His name is Bob. And he goes, "Why are you buying these?" I was like, "Oh, I really like Kiss. I just got into Kiss like a couple months ago because I transitioned from the K-Tel, Ronco albums of the 70s because I started high school in 78. So I came out of that into high school and all of a sudden everyone was into rock and, Skinner and all this stuff. And it was I didn't have older brothers and sisters to influence me that way. So this was a new thing." So he goes, "You like this?" I said, "Yeah, Ted Nugent's cool and Kiss is cool." However I spoke in the 9th grade, he goes, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to give you 2 other albums to buy. You get those instead. If you don't like them, bring them back. I'll give you these." Because he said, like, "Why do you like them?" I'm like, "Oh, the guitar is cool. This is cool." So he gave me the Yardbirds, either not Get Your Ya-Ya's Out, because that's a Stones album, but there was a Yardbirds, like Yardbirds Greatest Hits, and Derek and the Dominoes Anthology. Those were the 2 albums he gave.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
So I paid him. They were only like $3 each, and I had the money. So I paid him. I left. I went home, and I listened to the whole Yardbirds. So I'd never heard Shape of Things. I'd never heard Heart Full of Soul. I think I'd heard Train Kept It Rolling, but I thought it was Aerosmith. So all of a sudden, my eyes are doing this. And I would go back to him once or twice a week and be like, "What do you got?" And he turned me on to Sun Seals, Live and Burning in Chicago. He turned me on to Rory Gallagher. Like, he took all the rock I wanted and turned me on to different stuff. And the backstory for Bob was he at one point was Bad Company's tour manager, and he had worked with Mick Rouse, the guitarist, I think when he was in Procol Harum. But he had bought this record store in Harvard Square, and his attitude was, what are you getting that for? "Oh, I really like this." "Oh, you like that? You should go get that." Right. But I became a student. So it started to become, when in high school, I could hear Kiss, I could hear these bands. But if I went to him and said, "I want something like this album," he'd go, "Oh, go over there. Check out Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous. Get that instead of this."
Yeah.
I'd get it and bring it home. I mean, he curated a playlist that to this, I can remember standing in that store in Harvard Square, around the corner from the garage, lower level, small, but it was just, like you say, without the internet, without Google,
right?
You realized all this greatness was in front of me. I just didn't know how to tap into it. And he became that, that traffic cop that said, no, don't go left, go right, and stop right there. Yeah, it was to this day. I mean, we're going back to 1978, so 46 years ago.
If I could, as long as you're on albums, I can remember, like, I love that song, "The Rapper" by the Jaggers. Okay, now I had no idea, and it was a guy, at Max's Kansas City, that was my mentor there. And he went, "Oh, you like that? Oh, yeah. You know who else, was on that album? Donnie Iris, who did Aaliyah, the one hit wonder." And I was like, I mean, like you say, Jay, these older guys, you can learn a lot from them if you just keep your mouth shut. And
they put everything together for you. And then as you say, and I don't want to take away from Brian, but as you meet new people,
yes,
they suddenly come to you with like, "Oh, you haven't heard?" Like I had somebody later that totally got me into television,
like Neon Moon
Hell,
and
yeah. But I'm going to go back to Brian because I don't want.
No, it's okay. It's all relevant. And what's interesting about what you are both talking about right now, it's exactly what we do, because we have people who say, "Yeah, we like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and Justin Timberlake." And you're like, "Okay, well, if you like those things, you'll probably like this too." It's exactly what we do as programmers. And these are all things that we learned through these mentors. Maybe not the exact same songs all the time.
Right.
But it's that process of empathy and this understanding of rhythms and progressions and just styles that make us DJs, as far as I'm concerned. I know there are people watching this show right now who are saying, "I don't care if it's not on the Mobile Beat Top 200. Who cares?
Yeah.
The show is not for you."
Yeah.
No, you're missing out.
This is not for you. This is music lover stuff. You can absolutely take this and apply it to DJing, but it's about loving music first, and it's about understanding music first, and then taking that knowledge and becoming a DJ with it.
Well,
that's
Brian,
how I look at it.
I think we all have, and again, this is totally on topic. I'm working right now with, I know the three of us, and I think a lot of our viewers would know the name Donny Hathaway.
Yeah.
This is a famous singer. Well, he has a daughter.
Yeah.
Well, I believe it's Lola Hathaway.
Lolia
Hathaway. Her DJ is the person I'm working with for the last 2 weeks. She's a demonstrator now for us. She's her DJ and has been for like 6 years. So, of course, we're DJs. We're talking music. And we come from two entirely different worlds. But the foundation of our love of music goes back to what we grew up on.
Isn't she the one who did I'm Gonna Catch You? Am I thinking right?
Yes, I believe she is.
That's a great tune. I'm thinking of the right people here. And I didn't know
her DJ is this girl Spark.
I didn't know that was Donnie's daughter. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you met her, Brian, I think. You were at Expo.
Yeah.
So I think you met her in the booth. I think I introduced you.
Yeah, you know what? Yes, I remember now.
Yeah, she used to be Teddy Riley's DJ. She used to be Omarion's DJ. She used to work like with a lot of different groups. She's like kind of in the industry thing. But it's really funny because we're chit-chatting about music and I'm bringing up all these artists and she's looking at me like, nope. They're just not in her wheelhouse, radar, field of view. And I'm putting them on and she's like, "Oh, this is awesome. Who is this?"
Yeah. Like,
and she, no clue. But what's tripping her out is she's bringing up artists and she's like, "Well, kind of old school Grandmaster Flash." And I'm like, "Oh, Paranoid, Schizo, Setback, Snowbound, Bad News, Psycho, Hard Attack, Breakdown. In this room, a good Lord is giveth and taketh away. Mother cries and a doctor dies." I'm doing raps from those. And she's like, "You know this stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah,
I was there.
It's my job. It's my job, like as a music lover, to know music from different places." And I think too often I hear DJs say to me, "Man, I need a 2-minute remix of this song because I got to play it at this wedding." And it's like, you know what? Instead of worrying about that, why don't you just take it all in?
Yeah.
Like get it all. This is the greatest drug that won't kill you, that won't hurt you.
It's so true.
I am obviously in my late 30s.
Wait, it will make you broke though.
It could hurt you. It could hurt you, or it could be something you leave to your wife Blanca and everyone else in the background, one or the other. But I'm going to tell you, I'll go to my grave. I went to Belmont Music with the money I made from mowing Dr. DeLellis's lawn, and on the same day in April of 1979, I came home with Cheap Trick live at Budokan and the Police Outlandish D'Amour, and I put them on my turntable in my room, and I went to a place that I thought felt like what it means to kiss a girl deeply, to be in love, to be an adult, to be free, and to fly. And all those emotions hit me all at once as I read the liner notes and listened to both of those albums front to back in a row. And I just thought, wow. And same thing, you, Brian, you and I have talked about Breakfast in America, the Logical song. Going from junior high to high school, that song was playing that summer, and it became part of my story of growing up.
The Logical song, yeah.
It's one of the greatest songs of all time.
It's one of those songs that, I mean, I was young, but I was exposed to a lot. And I remember hearing it. I'd never heard anything like it. But what
completely different.
The hook for me, I don't know why it was, but the hook for me is when he says, "Please tell me who I am," the way he says that.
Yes.
That was the hook. It was how it was done, not the lyric, but how he
as the song
delivered the lyric.
When it builds and it gets the vocal of like, "When I was young," and he starts to get angry almost.
Well, it's after the first chorus, it goes into this more,
exactly. It goes into that new
cool
section where it's
groove.
Like, it gets like almost like angry and amped up, and you're like,
I bought it. I mean, I was 7, and I bought
the
it.
waitress with the plate of food.
Well, I bought the 45. I wasn't. I didn't have the money for the whole thing, but
I was pretty well off at that point.
You were established. The 8-track was in the fleet somewhere, so I did hear the whole thing. I think maybe Dan had it, or maybe my sister's boyfriend had it, but at any rate, I had access to it. And what I used to do, I mean, back then, we've talked about this. I had the older siblings, quite a bit older than me, so I had weird influences back then. If I heard something I liked in someone's car, because that's how it was, you get in their Le Mans or their Cuda or whatever, you'd hear something, and it's always, somebody my sisters knew, or my brother, or somebody he knew. You'd end up in their car for some reason. I would take the 8-track and I would play it over my brother's stereo, because my brother and I shared a room. So he saved up and bought the combo system with the 8-track record player, FM AM tuner. I would play it over our stereo in the room, and on my sister's tape recorder, my big sister, it wasn't even mine. I borrowed it. I didn't have a power cord for it. I had to do deep battery, so I'd use it sparingly. But I would get a cassette. I'd put it next to the speaker, and I'd record the 8-track.
Yeah.
So I could listen to it. And I know I still have some of that stuff, and you can hear my 7-8-year-old voice scolding people walking into my bedroom like my mom. "Hey, I'm recording the Knack right now. Shh, quiet."
Yeah.
So, and you get the clicks in there, but that's how I was able to listen to stuff over and over again,
But Brian, we come from a generation, even though we're different ages, we come from a generation where there was an understanding of, we had a guy in my high school who had a real crappy car, but everyone agreed he had the best stereo. And you know what?
Priorities.
That mattered more than the car. Nowadays, people are buying cars with a stereo that is mind-blowing. My kids, if I went to my 20-year-old and 16-year-old and I said, "Hey, I want to go buy you a stereo for your room," there would be a complete shutdown of reality, because that statement means nothing to them.
Well,
the same way I buy music. I still buy music. My kids don't need to in their world, because they have Spotify and YouTube Premium and all this. And if you don't invest in it, I know I'm doing a little cloud.
Stop.
Okay, wait. Now, what you're talking about is what happened with me. It was like, later on, when I became very successful, I did have like the best home system in my first apartment, but living at home, everything was about the car. I would put you're right. My system in the car costs more than the car.
Yeah.
And I always think whenever I think of those, and I reminisce about that time, it's like I think of Deep Purple Highway Star.
Great track.
Nobody's gonna touch my car. It's like I thought I had the best car in the world because of the stereo, not because the car was great.
No, we didn't care what the car. Well, you and I grew up back east. Brian, you were between Cali and Oklahoma, and you grew up in places that rust wasn't really an issue.
By the time. Well, no, by the time I was 12, I lived here.
Okay, so then you knew that.
I knew.
The world was, this car is eventually going to fall apart on the road while I'm driving it. But in the meantime, if I could just get the stereo in it, that is just going to kick that excitement.
Well, by the way, that's another show.
You would drive to nowhere just to listen to music. At least that's what I did.
You haven't lived till you've gone past your exit because the song you were listening to meant so much to you that you would rather drive further.
I still do it.
I do too. I do too.
Still do it.
Yeah.
Stevie has this thing, and she gets anxiety about it, and it's a little
OCD?
Disheartening that she does. But I've done this with her, and she doesn't like it because she's of the generation, I feel, where they want to have all the answers, and if they don't have the answers, they feel like they failed you. Where I'm of the generation where we didn't know a lot of things, so we were happy to learn them. But she's of the generation where we've Googled it already. We should already know this. And I love it when she does it. She doesn't do it very often. Even now, she'll come down here and I'll put something on. I say, let me turn you on to something new. And I'll put it on and I'll introduce her to it. And, it's anything from ELO to, maybe McCartney, which she became a big fan of. But then you get to the point where it's like you play something and say, okay, who is this? Mm-hmm. And that's when the pressure goes on. That's what she doesn't like when I do that to her. Who is this? Come on, you know this. You've heard this before. Who does this sound like? She doesn't like it. And it was funny because at the funeral on Saturday, they played music, like, songs that Pop would like. Mm-hmm. And they put something on, and I'm considered the fifth brother. I'm like the fifth Beatle in the family, so we all know Pop the same.
Like Pete Best, or much
more like Billy Preston.
George Martin is the fifth.
I'm more like Billy Preston.
Okay, like Billy Preston.
Like the fifth.
Yeah.
By the way, 95% of our audience now has homework to do to look up who Billy Preston, Pete Best, and George Martin.
I'm not Pete Best. I'm more like George Martin or yeah. So anyway,
that makes sense to Howie and I.
Yeah. So
we're in our 30s.
Yeah, I'm there, but I'm not on the album cover. So they start playing this song, and this is just the family, and you could hear people imitating Pop. It was a good tune. Listen to it. Who is this? Somebody else says, who's the banjo player? Come on, you've heard this before. I'm doing what Dad did. I'm doing exactly what he did to me when I was a kid. We would go, and Stevie is sitting next to me, and she looks at me and says, oh, so that's where that came from. Like, yeah, it is. Because we used to go over to what we called the farm. It wasn't a functional farm, but it was an old farmhouse with a barn on it and hot rods all over the place, and we called it the farm. So you go there, and you'd sit at the kitchen table, because the rest of the house you couldn't move in. There was so much stuff. Grandpa was a hoarder. So you'd sit there and Pop would DJ. And the CDs had just come out. He would collect these things or cassettes or whatever he had. And he'd play them on the radio on the kitchen table, and he'd pop something in and he'd say, who is this? Who's that? Check it out. It's a good tune. Quiet. Listen to this one.
But don't you take joy in getting people excited? I remember sitting with somebody listening to Bon Jovi's Blaze of Glory.
Yeah.
And the solo came up, and I did the same thing. I was like, this is playing slide in the solo? Because I was excited that I knew, and they didn't. And it was a big name. and that sort of gives that credibility of knowledge of music. And they're like,
Yeah.
it's Rich Sambora. I'm like, no, it's Jeff Beck. And they kind of looked at me like, so what? I'm like, oh my God,
Well,
Aldo Nova's doing rhythm guitar, and this is Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you excited about that?
Thing. I did
Like,
the
you should
same
be
thing with my
excited then.
friends.
Well,
I did the same thing
yeah.
with my friends when I played Eye in the Sky,
Alan Parsons.
right? And they and I go, you like that? And they go, yeah, that's really cool. I go, do you know who he is? No.
Do you think you've heard him before?
He may be the guy that did Dark Side of the Moon.
That one, yes.
Oh, now we know who he is.
But you know what, Howie? We're the geeks that read the liner notes, and we're the geeks that cared.
Because well, you read the liner notes when you were just sitting there checking out an album, or sorting your seeds out of your dope.
But the excitement was when you got it home.
You got it.
No. When you got it home and you pulled it out. When you pulled out the
the whole experience.
And you got to read it. But I don't understand now. I mean, every album I've ever bought was that period. You just knew in your head, when I put it on, I have to pull out. I used to get so mad when there'd be a picture of the band on one side, and then on the other it would be like, we want to thank John. I'm like, what?
Tell me a story.
That's it? No, tell me who's doing back. Oh my God, James Taylor's doing background vocals.
If you ever want to read a funny liner note, check out the Boston Don't Look Back album and read that liner note. It's kind of funny.
Yeah,
it is. If you remember it or have never seen it,
I remember it well, considering that
it's just goofy. It's like, they're telling the story, but not like articulately telling the story. They're telling it like they would talk, and it's confusing and it's funny, but
they're telling it now again. Tom Schultz is now coming clean with everything about like, I played everything, and then I got Brad, and we did these 3 gigs, and then the 4th gig we had to do a huge show, and we didn't have the encore, so we played More Than a Feeling again. And I'm just like looking at this, and people around me are just like, why does that matter? And I think that's what it comes down to. Music mattered so much.
Well, not only
else did.
But the sharing of the music, like, used to have turned me on to stuff because my history where, 5-6 days a week I was doing that punk rock thing,
Right.
And
but you got to see stuff that we loved.
I know, but
you got to see Talking Heads before they were Talking Heads.
Yeah, but Brian turned me on to My Generation in 9 minutes, his own mix, and I'm shazamming everything, and then I'm like deep diving, and then not even a month ago, you turned me on to Dark Wave, and I'm thinking, I know these songs. I didn't know it was called Dark Wave.
I didn't either.
Well, what was interesting about the whole pop thing that I was talking about is because Mikey is, and by the way, I just want to say this before I go any further. A lot of you guys look at me like I'm some kind of musical savant. Like, oh my God, you know so much about music. In my brain, I'm thinking to myself, I'm a DJ, of course I should. But having said that, guys like, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Before I go any further, I will say guys like Pop have forgotten more about music than I'll ever know. And his son Mikey is the same way. Mikey, I tell Mikey about you guys. He's like, what's wrong with these guys? How come they don't know this stuff? I'm like, I don't know. He's not a DJ, but he knows all this stuff about music. And I'm always attracted to, hanging out with these kinds of people to learn more.
Right.
But what was interesting with Pop is, because we've talked about it, with Mikey, they listened to David Allan Coe and Hank Williams and, that kind of stuff. Waylon Jennings and that.
Yeah,
great music.
He didn't listen to that with me. With me, it was Jefferson Starship.
Wow.
It was Electric Light Orchestra. It was, Wing stuff. It was Yacht Rock one-hit wonders. It was Me and You and a Dog Named Boo and Chevy Van and great Ambrosia. Song. It was a very different vibe. So it was programming for me. If you like this, you may like this too. And he would turn me on to tracks that I vaguely remembered. Like they were on the radio and I forgot about it. The one that sticks out in my mind is ELO Last Train to London. It's off of Discovery, which is kind of what's considered the disco album. And I remember hearing it when he played it. At the intro, I kind of recognized, and then the chorus or the verse I didn't, but the chorus, and I'm like, oh my God, I remember this track. It just came and went so fast. But in his mind, that was a keeper.
Right.
That was, and it's kind of like us as DJs. There might be songs that don't stay number one for very long, but for some reason we're still playing the damn things because they're just good and they work. This is all stuff I learned from this man, and this is all stuff, thought processes, not only the songs, but the thought processes and the empathy for your audience that I use for my job. That's all I was going to say there. I'll let you guys do what you got to do.
No. You bring up a point that I want to touch on because Saturday, I had a wedding this past Saturday. I had a wedding Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Or I had a party Sunday. So wedding Friday went one direction. Really fun. They went 90s alternative for cocktail. At the end of cocktail, I had two people come up to me and say, can I just tell you, this is the best music I've ever heard at a wedding, and it's only the cocktail hour. I'm like, oh, thank you so much for saying that. Did you pick all this music? I'm like, yeah. It's like, oh my God, this was amazing. I'm like, oh, thank you. The bride and groom had agreed with me to play 90s alternative for cocktail. Oh my God, I was singing to like every song. So I'm like, cool, it got through. Saturday's wedding, cocktail was, on my notes, figure it out. You'll read the crowd and play to the crowd. And I'm like, no problems. I get there and I see the crowd, and it's a lot of kind of 40, 50-year-olds, a couple youngers, but, mostly that older crowd. I play a few songs, random yacht rock tracks, some more classic rock. And then I played Steely Dan.
Oh.
And I played Peg. And a guy walks up to me and he goes, I'm going to see these guys at Hollywood Bowl. I'm like, no way. He goes, yeah, man, I've seen them like 3 times. And then he starts naming bands he's seen. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome. I follow Steely Dan with Doobie Brothers. And I follow Doobie Brothers
which
with
one?
George Harrison. No, I think I did not oh my gosh. Dun 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 dun. I can't think of the song now. Not Minute by Minute, but it's from the Minute by Minute album. The big hit on Minute
Depending
by Minute.
on you.
No. She sees us somewhere back in.
What a Fool Believes?
That's it. What a Fool Believes. Thank you. I couldn't get the track. So I play that, and he's like, turns around, he goes, I saw these guys one time up in San Francisco. So then another guy walks over, and I play Jerry Rafferty, Baker Street, and the guy walks up out of nowhere, and he goes, hey, man, my son lives in Yoruba. He lives on Baker Street. I saw him today. I'm like, what? This is like one of those weird nights. But so I'm like, okay, I see where the crowd's going.
Yeah.
And I just keep going down that road.
Sure.
I played the Jay Ferguson, John Colley sent me, so you'll be happy.
Thank you.
I played the right version.
Thank you.
But as I play that, the guy comes up and he goes, man, who is this? I go, Jay Ferguson. He goes, man, I love that voice. So I have no alternative but to play JoJo Gunn next. Run, Run, Run. I play that and I go, hey, come here. I go, you like this? He goes, yeah, man, that sounds great. Who is this? I go, JoJo Gunn. I go, you like the voice? He goes, yeah. I go, same guy. What? I go, yeah. This is the guy that just played on
Thunder Island.
Jay Ferguson. He was lead singer here, just like Steeler Wheel, Stuck in the Middle with You.
Jerry Rafferty, right. Yeah, right.
And I become like Casey Kasem all of a sudden. Now it's my job to educate the crowd. But I start noticing people tapping their toes like, this is awesome. And there's no rhyme or reason. It's just music they know.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me right then and there. You know what? As much as I think it's about mixing and going BPMs up and down,
it's more memory.
Sometimes it's just about the memory. Thank you, Howie.
Yes, because I think I've told the story before. You
should have mentioned this, Brian.
I know.
I'm
sorry. I didn't know about this until today.
Oh, man. I'm doing a summer event and, outside, and a guy comes walking up and goes, you're Howie. And I went, oh, yeah, hi, I'm sorry. I forgot your name. He goes, I remember you from 30 years ago. You're the guy that jumped out of the plane at your concert. Yeah. And
wow,
really? And
he remembered that.
He remembered that, and he remembered me. And so I said, Well, thank you, and blah blah blah. So what I did was, it was just near the end of the song, and I put on Fog Hat
Slow Ride?
from 75. No, Full for the City.
Full for the City.
Oh, great song.
And he like spun around and he looked at me and goes, I remember that, one of your bands was covering that song. And I was like, and then there was that dialogue of, oh, hey, and back and forth with it's just, timeless stuff,
This is a show that I enjoy. So I go out of my way, guys, as I'm sure you both do as well, to make sure I'm available. I'm actually mad that I have to do this show now. Or actually, no, the show ends. I'll actually be available next Tuesday. It just dawned on me. I fly home in the morning, so I will be available. Okay, so that one, the following one, I should be. But I really look forward to this. I mean, yeah, I'm making millions of dollars every year because of the deal I've got with John Young.
Yeah.
Well,
which is different. Yeah. But because it gives me a solid hour to talk about the thing that I'm most passionate about outside of my wife and kids, which is music. I mean, I know there's a lot of things in my life that could go away, but the one thing I know I can't live without is music. I know I can live without food for 13, 14 days, maybe longer. I can live without alcohol. I can live without vape and cig and this and that and this and that. But music, from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, it is as much a part of my life as breathing.
I want to give
it just is.
I want to give a shout out to somebody here who is also, whether they know it or not, has been a musical mentor of mine, and that's Marl Luna. If you guys know Marl,
Marl's an awesome guy.
Jay can throw a rock at Marl's house from where he lives.
Yeah, I have sent Mara so many hits for gigs, but he's just doing the jewelry store now. He's that's his thing right now. He's got the family.
Yeah.
His mom.
He called me for my birthday, and you guys know I was busy, and I didn't get to even take the call. But I love the guy. One thing that he did that was so interesting. Sometimes it's about perspective. It didn't necessarily tell me about a song I didn't know, but he made me look at some music in a new way. And the way he did this was because, I mean, not only is he a DJ, but he's a friend of mine. I've stayed at his home. We've spent time together.
Marl's awesome.
When Marl's older than I am, but when Marl was young in the 70s, he was into lowrider culture.
Yeah, big time.
And he talked about the songs that he listened to. He hears, oh, this is a lowrider song. And me, pasty white guy, I'm thinking, war. Why can't we be friends?
Right.
And lowrider and maybe some Santana track, stuff with a real Latin vibe to it. And he's like, oh no, it's Steely Dan. It's the Can't Buy a Thrill album. That's lowrider music. Really? It's like, oh yeah. It's got some Latin vibe to it, but that's it. And then you'll hear like the Jacksons with Dancing Machine. He's like, that's a lowrider track. I'm like, how could that possibly be a lowrider track? I'm thinking in my head, it's not going to have boogie. That. Just all the, he's giving me, like, he's opened my mind. Oh, wait a minute. He was there. He experienced it. This is what was really happening. So if you really wanted to play something for a crowd like that would come along and you play this stuff, they're going to look at you like, how did you know?
Well, that wedding.
They do. And they do.
A couple weeks ago, I did the wedding and the guy's like 45 years old. He's like, yo, for cocktail, I want to go some like old groove funk stuff. I go, be careful what you ask for. Cause like, he doesn't know the Twitch set. So I open with like Kool and the Gang, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I get his two uncles who are in black shirts, the black hat, the gray goatee, gray hair, the jeans, and both of them are tapping their toes. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go down this road. And I'm dropping like weird Curtis Mayfield stuff. I'm trying to get like real funky. And it was the gig where I think it was you, Brian. I'm like 99% sure it was you. At the end of it, I was so proud of myself. Oh, look at this gig. I did this. Oh, no, it was the 420 gig where I'm playing all this stuff. And you said like, dude, you're right down there on the border? I'm like, yeah, I was right in San Ysidro, like right on the border of Mexico. Did you play any Smiths? I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot.
Yes.
It was you. And I knew that. I knew about the
Yeah.
whole greaser Mexican Smiths thing.
Okay, well, hold on a second, G. How many white dudes from the Midwest would even know that?
But that's the thing. I know, but yet
You
it was
know
so
it. Didn't
obvious.
occur to
I
you.
forgot. And I not once. And yet I could sit here and have this discussion fresh and be like, oh, dude, drop some Morrissey. They love Morrissey. Morrissey's huge in Mexico. But when you're in the moment, this is
it's huge in
about
LA.
being a DJ.
It's huge in SoCal.
Oh, yeah. And I'm
if
on the border because it gets huge down there.
If I may circle back to Mauro Luna, he called me 3 months ago and he goes, "Hey, Howie, how you doing?" I go, "Wow, dude, haven't seen you in a while. Like last time I saw him was at Rolling Smoke Barbecue with you, Brian, in Vegas." And I go, "What's up, dude?" He goes, "I just heard Blondie, call me." He said, and I had to call you. And I was like,
yeah, that's Mauro.
That's Mauro.
He goes, well, you did sound for her, and the song says "call me," so I had to call you. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's Mauro.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
By the way, those of you that don't know Mauro, he's not only a great guy, great DJ,
So
musical
sweet.
knowledge.
Oh my god!
But for about about 8 years, Brian, 9 years, at the Mobile Beat show every February. He would do a thing called the tamale party where he would make tamales because he makes tamales. Yeah. And I've actually gone to his house in Hemet. Right.
No.
And I would get tamales and bring them home. Like I've gone to he's been like, please come out. I've got a bunch of tamales. Come get them. I'm like, okay. But he would do these tamale parties and we would be in a hotel room at the Riviera or South Coast. Or South Point, Riviera. And let me tell you, the hotel room would probably hold 10 people comfortably. And the 50 of us would be there. And there's a great photo. I'm not going to pull it up, but somewhere there's a photo of me smoking a cigarette out on the balcony, like on the 20th floor. And there's about 19 people. And I'm looking out on the edge, like smoking, going, this is the greatest night of my life. And I look in.
It is.
And I just see like 4 deep people. And I realize there's no way this thing was built to hold this many people.
No, it wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't.
And I've got there's a photo of me and Naveen where I've got a Bud Light and a Bud Light underneath and a Bud Light and a cigarette. And I'm just like,
the funny thing about the tamale party.
Did this party every year, and it became so. Remember, one year it became so big they moved it to a room.
Well, they tried to get sponsorship,
and that was the worst thing they could have done.
Yeah, we were all at the very last one.
Yeah, shout out to Steve Sharp. Steve Sharp used to DJ it and did a great job.
Let me just have 1 minute and tell you my quick.
I'm out. You guys go.
Go
I'm
ahead.
Just saying it. That's who he is, and it was amazing.
But I do have. When you're done with yours, Brian, I have.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Mauro says, "Hey, because it was hush hush because it became so famous that he would give you a little piece of paper with the room number.
Yep.
And he goes, Howie, come up. Do not share this with anybody. Go up there." And he goes, "Yeah, tamale party." And I go, I haven't had tamales since I was a teenager at a church social where it was one of those covered dish type things. And he goes, "Oh, they're really good." I go, "I didn't really care for it as a kid." I said, I bit into it and it just seemed kind of chewy. And he goes, "Oh, you have to take the corn husk off. You eat." I go, "Oh, I didn't know that." So I unwrapped it and he's laughing his butt off. I unwrap it and I eat it. And I'm like, "Oh, this is delicious. This is nothing like I had at the church."
No.
Anyway, that's my tamale story. And
you had said earlier, Howie, that he made him with his mom and
with his mom. Yes.
Well, let me just say this. For those of you who don't know, Mauro is ethnically Latino, but Jay will understand this. He's culturally just kind of like a fool, which is like, to me, what that means is, yeah, he's ethnically Latino, but his family has like lived here in the U.S. like forever. He's like 5th, 10th generation or something. He's just like us,
right?
And when he makes these wonderful tamales.
Oh my God.
And one time I asked him, because I'm thinking this is an old family recipe, you know.
Yeah.
So Morrow, where did you learn how to make these great tamales? And I'm thinking he's going to tell me the story about his grandmother or
my abuela and all that.
He's like, oh, dude, I'll watch a YouTube video.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best part. Yeah. No, it's the Mexican guy that's like making tamales, playing the role. And all of a sudden, it's like, where'd you get all this stuff? Oh,
I probably speak better Spanish than Morrow does.
You probably do.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you the thing about Morrow.
What a great guy.
If I called Morrow right now and I said, dude, I got this thing tomorrow I got to do. I need a suit. If he didn't have a suit to give me,
he'd buy you one.
He'd buy me one.
Yeah. That's Morrow.
No, he's just
kind of friend he is.
You know, I mean, we all say that about people like, oh, they're the nice person.
No, he really is.
Morrow is the guy that at 4 a.m., I'm not kidding. Like, and I can count on one hand. Like people, and you know how people test you once in a while, they say, hey, you know, who are your real friends? And I'm like, honestly, I could call Brian or Christian and probably get whatever I needed. Like a weird thing, like 4 a.m, like, hey bro, is an emergency, can you help me? And they do the best they could. Or Morrow's that guy that everyone could call.
You're right.
No, Howie, we're not talking lights. I don't need like a DMX at 4 a.m. 4 a.m, there's a bigger problem
than this week.
Yeah.
No, I did call you, but it wasn't like 4 a.m. and there was no gun in my head.
You need a sofa to crash on.
You could have.
No, I appreciate that. So now I've been
in jail.
But I'm saying Morrow's that guy that pretty much everyone that's ever met him, if they called him, he'd respond that way.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's different. I wouldn't. I'm like, what? Now I'm asleep. Morrow's like, hey, John Smith, how are you? What's that you need? He's just a different, and I don't want to make this whole show about.
No. It's good, and this is relevant to what I'm talking about, and the reason it's relevant to what I'm talking about.
But his musical knowledge is pretty good too.
It is, but what like when I talked about, you know, Pop before with what he taught me. And Morrow taught me a lot about music, and so did Pop. But they also, and it sounds funny, but well, for Morrow anyway, it does, because you know I've known him for probably as long as I've known you, Jay. But he really is somebody who I aspire to be like. You know, he's so kind. Like, if I could be as kind as Morrow,
that was the
I would be doing so well.
He's a gentle soul. I mean, he's always the really same. Is. He's always. I've hung out with him. I borrowed some mics from him about a year ago. I met him at the jewelry store. He gave me the mics. He said, "Hey, you need batteries? You need this?" No. I'm really sorry. I got this gig, and his mom was there. It was at the jewelry store, and he's like, "Hey, you know, when do you think you'll have him back?" I'm like, "When do you need him?" He goes, "I don't." I said, "Well, I still want to give him back to you in like a week or two." And I said, hey, you know what? I called him up and I said, hey, I got the mics. I said, you know, can I buy you a drink or dinner or a car or something for borrowing the mics, and I'll give you some money? He's like, no money. I said, well, let me get you a drink. Well, let's meet here. Okay. And we meet, and he makes you feel better because you sit down with him, and he like, the waitress comes over and he's like, you know who that is? That's DJ J. He's an amazing DJ. Like, that's his thing.
He's very kind.
He's always being very kind and very, you know.
He's incredibly generous, but you want to be like him. He is an really influence, and that's another influence. It's not just songs and titles.
No,
that's another form of this, which is really cool when you can get that from a mentor. And it's not only the music, it's how these people interact with you and others, and you want to be like them.
We see how they live their life.
What we need to do, when this show goes up to YouTube, copy the link and send it to him, because
I think that'd be really nice. I think
tag him in it.
Because I asked him, I said, Morrow, love to have you on the show. And he was like, no, I don't think I'm relevant anymore. I'm helping my mom because she's, in ill health, and I'm running the jewelry store. And I go, but Morrow, we love you. And he goes, I really appreciate that, but I'm
But
gonna
see,
have
this is the tragedy of COVID and everything else. It didn't only take lives and change stories, but it stopped the process that used to be in place of once or twice a year we'd meet up and be
Mhm.
excited to meet up. I
Mhm.
knew, even though he lives maybe 15 minutes from me, like right now, I could literally
Yeah.
get in the car, drive to his house in 15 minutes.
Mhm.
It just wasn't on my radar to see him all the time. But when I got to Vegas from Mobile Beat, it was a beeline to see what he's up to.
Right.
Mhm.
It was,
Yeah.
oh, here he is.
Yeah.
But there's guys in LA, Jose. I mean, there's countless people
Oh,
that I
sure.
know that I could go see. But you live in the realm of you're at a show, and this is where I see you and what we do, and you
Mhm.
get so much out of that. And
You
that's
do.
the sad part of where we are now. I mean, it's already late May almost,
Mhm.
going in, or it is going into Memorial Day weekend.
Mm.
Then we have
Mhm.
NAM. Then we get into June. Everyone's busy. July, August we have Expo. September,
Mhm.
October, November, December. We're going to be online and Zoom talking to each other, which is great, but we don't have that interaction anymore because everyone has either decided we can do fine without it as a business, or why bother? But
Well,
the mentorship that Brian started the show about, a lot of
Mhm.
it really comes down to that one on one, that
yeah, it
in person
Mhm.
moment,
Mhm.
because
does.
in a conversation, that's when things change.
Mhm.
Well, for anybody out there who, I don't know how I want to say this. I guess I'm always there for anybody out there. I'll teach you whatever I can. I'll show you whatever I can. You kind of give me an idea of what direction you want to go, and I will do my best to always go in that direction with you and help you along the way. I don't necessarily like to bang my fist and say you need to know this song and this song and this song.
Right.
Where do you want to go? Okay, you like this? Let's go here. I'll always do my best to do that, whether it be here or at a show. And a lot of people just quite frankly aren't interested in that kind of stuff. A lot of people would rather talk about, well, quite frankly, equipment all the time. There's a lot of equipment conversations and a lot of, program conversation as far as, how to program your Serato or your VDJ or whatever you have and what are the tricks and all that. I'm a music guy. I was accused of being the lighting guy for a long time because of the ADJ thing, but that was not the truth. Howie's
Right.
a lighting guy. I'm a music guy. So he's Mr. DMX over here. I hate it. But no, man,
Although you are very good at it, but not many people know that.
there are, as Jay said, maybe the shows aren't the only way to learn things now. So people have taken these easier routes if they're interested to learn about music or to learn about just performance or whatever the case might be. So I don't know that that's a bad thing necessarily. More people are introduced to it, and you look at somebody like JC. Okay, JC liked it so much he decided to go to the show. It was important enough for him to go to the show and interact.
And he's in Mexico City.
He may not have done it otherwise.
He flew all the way out because of the chill room.
Yeah.
Well,
he may not have
let me make this
done
statement,
otherwise.
and I mean this wholeheartedly. JC is as much a music guy as
Oh,
I
yeah.
am,
Oh, yeah.
Brian is,
Yeah.
John Cowley, Howie. But JC comes up with stuff that even I'm like, put it this way, I will give JC full credit on this. There was a version of Blasphemous Rumors from Depeche Mode by a guy named Duncan Sheik, and I used to have it on CD. And I've looked on YouTube, can't find it. I went to iTunes, can't find it. I mentioned it. 10 minutes later, I get JC sending me links where I can get it.
Yeah. Well, of course.
Because
Of course JC knows.
he is insane. Like every time I do a Twitch set, if JC's in the audience, I try to go off the map, off the grid, out there in the wilderness and go,
Yeah.
here's a track. And I mention, I think JC will like this. And I get the hearts from JC because, again, this is the beauty of this. I don't ever want to leave a day on this planet. And today is a good one. I've learned one thing, which was, you know, those little joints where doors meet counters or cabinets? I learned how to affix them.
Moldings?
No. The hinges, where the hinges, you take them off. It's kind of an IKEA thing, I think.
Okay.
But these doors were off a cabinet.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I know what you mean.
Spark who I worked with said, these are easy. Click, click. And I go,
Yeah. Yep. What?
show me that. She goes, put it in like this, push into this point, and then push the back. And they affixed. And I'm like, now, you guys were all like rebuilding Mustangs and building electrical structures in Pennsylvania. So you guys are like, what an idiot. You didn't know that? I really hope before we all leave the planet, you guys realize there might be something I know that everyone doesn't know, but I doubt it. But in
It's guitar related.
that could be.
Or it has to do with porn. One or the other.
One or the other. Now, as a former mattress actress, so I walked away, but then we talked about music. So I get the other aspect of, this is amazing. Like now I learned this new song. But I mean, every day there's a song. Come on, every day learning it. You know what? Let's make this the point of the show. Not only mentors, make yourself a mentor. Do yourself a huge favor. Every morning, get up, find a service, find a video, find something that's a little out of your wheelhouse, and get one new song a day. That's 365 songs a year. Make that your new challenge. And at the end of the year, walk away with music that not only will you love, but you'd never heard before, and it will change who you are as a DJ.
I'll close with this.
Take it.
I'll close with this. There are people out there who are dying to share what they have in their head with somebody. They can't
even
wait
the voices
to tell somebody. You got to let them know that you want to listen. You got to listen. You got to let them know you're interested. I mean, I've seen it in the last week here in my family, where there have been introductions made and finally, what I want to say, people finally become acquainted properly, and the information they're sharing back and forth, they couldn't wait to share it, and the other person couldn't wait to absorb it. So, yeah, there are people out there who want you to know. I do. Why do you guys do all the damn videos? I mean, there are things out there that I'm dying to tell somebody, and it's not for me. It's for you. You may or may not care, but I want to put it out there in case someone does. So, if you want to learn, there's someone out there willing to teach you. You just got to be open, and you've got to be patient. And I don't know.
No matter how bad it gets, understand that. Just believe in this. There's something in music that can make it better.
And on that, we'll wrap the show. Thanks for tuning in. If you're lucky, they'll let us come back next week.
Good night, all.
So, good night, everybody. We'll see you then.